If you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me on Patreon for a monthly donation that helps me out and this channel greatly so I can keep creating more and more videos. Also, so I can hopefully start attending comic conventions really soon. I guess Blood Moon is the official title of the Game of Thrones prequel. Also, George thinks we're toxic. How dare you? Let's get into Blood Moon news. So there are going to be spoilers for the Game of Thrones prequel. If you do not want spoilers for it, you can skip to the timestamp that should be on the screen right now. Future Rawrist, please don't forget to do that. Thanks. Pass Rawrist. So maybe the codename is more than a codename because now we have an official logo of Blood Moon from a production sheet. The word blood and moon is separated by a spear. The O's are reflected with dark red lines through them. And I guess blood and moon are two separate words instead of just one together, which is, fine. I like George's idea of calling it the long night, but Blood Moon I don't like it. We got more behind-the-scenes photos for filming of the prequel pilot thanks to a super sleuth, and it's basically more of the same. The cave system they built, a cove, weirwood trees. Though inside one cave is a lion's head, so that's neat. I don't know if this has any relation to the Lannisters. I mean, Lan the Clever was said to trick the Casterlys out of Casterly Rock during this time, so maybe we're going to see that, but House Lannister wasn't exactly founded probably at this point. Lan was likely tricking, murdering. I guess you can trick and murder, that can be them out of the castle so he could create House Lannister. Please show us that happening and how exactly he did it, since there's so many theories. Let's not go with the rape one, though. Let's go with the letting lions loose one. Or booby-trapping the castle. There was also rumors that they've been casting Starks, which is interesting because House Stark really got its founding from Bran the Builder, supposedly. History is mucky, and he was the one who ended up building the wall, and then he built Winterfell and founded House Stark, so I'm guessing it's just when all of this happens, and I mean, George has been very upfront that just like in their history, the world of ice and fire, it's just as foggy as when we look back thousands and thousands of years, so I think maybe that's going to be the most fascinating thing about this prequel show, is seeing what the Maesters got right and what they were just horribly wrong about. I mean, if you're gonna say show and book canon are the same, which they aren't necessarily, but it'll be a little bit different for the prequel show, I think. So yeah, seeing what the Maesters said versus what we see on the screen is going to be so much fun to compare. Please get more than a pilot. Even though I'd rather see a Game of Thrones prequel show about anything other than the long night, but, I take what I can get. The Super Sleuth also got some other photos, including some actors taking a break between scenes with Westerosi hair, but more toned down. Seeing the various hair and clothing styles is going to be very exciting for this series as well. How much has fashion changed in the thousands of years? I guess we'll see. Even though, spoilers, we also saw lots of rusty armor on set, you'll find the world of Ice and Fire tends to move technologically a lot slower than our world. Fuck ton slower. As for scenes for the prequel pilot, someone actually ended up snapping a photo of some of the labels for the scenes they're doing. Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire fans are the creepiest stalkers I've ever met, and I love it so much. So they'll be shooting at places called Court, Village, Inn, Enclave, Barn, House, Long Hall, Bathhouse, Terraces, and a dungeon. I mean, there's not a lot you can go off of based off of just those names, except for the bathhouse. So people that need their booby quota that haven't figured out yet that you can just use the internet to see as many boobies as you want, you might get some in the prequel pilot. Boobies everywhere. Let's move on to George, who thinks that modern fandom is toxic because welcome to the future, George, where the internet breeds a lot of toxicity and terrible things. See, being anonymous lets garbage humans be garbage because there's no fear of retaliation or humiliation or those other things that keeps us in line. Societal pressures actually do some good. So he shared his thoughts, saying, "The internet is toxic in a way that the old fanzine culture and the fandoms, comic fans, science fiction fans, in those days was not. Yeah, there were disagreements, there were feuds, but nothing like the madness you see on the internet. It did not empower anonymity. The coward's mean of discourse." Also, and I remind people of this, it also connects like-minded people in a way that they would have never been connected before. So, you know how before we had the village idiot and everyone kind of scorned them because they were so fucking crazy and out there, and you're just like, okay, dude, you do that thing? Now all the village idiots from all over the world can connect online and find other like-minded village idiots. So, it's great. Also, people are planning on booing D&D at the San Diego Comic-Con, which I don't think will happen. I feel like most of the people saying they're going to do it are keyboard warriors, and they don't have the guts to actually go out in public and do it, but I guess we'll see. Besides George letting us know how toxic we are, he also let us know that the fact that D&D had no television experience is exactly why they were best to do Game of Thrones. So he shared, "As irony would have it, neither one of them had any experience in television when I signed up to do this with them. Maybe it was because they had no experience in television, they didn't know what was possible, so they reached for the impossible and achieved it. They put together a sensational team." Him being offered a TV series by them was very different than the other offers he was being given at the time. Post Lord of the Rings doing so well, people were coming to George saying, hey, we'll make a movie centered around this character, or we'll make the first movie about the first book, and if it does well, we'll continue on. And George was just like, no, I don't want that. George also said that as the seasons went on with Game of Thrones, D&D required less consultation, and they did an excellent job according to him, so congrats, D&D. George thinks you did an amazing job. That's high praise from him. In fact, George has been defending D&D pretty hard, and recently even said, hey, even if I was the showrunner, I would have cut a lot of things too. So he said, as lavish as that production was, as big budget as it was, they still couldn't include all the characters. My books are bigger. Instead of 8 seasons, it would have had to go 20 seasons of 13 to 15 episodes. And even then, I would have had to eliminate things. There's no right answer or wrong answer. There is, as long as you get the essence of the story. So he thinks because D&D got to the essence of his story of what's going to happen that it turned out great. So that's fine. George also thinks that he's never going to see the same success with any of his other works as he saw with Game of Thrones. It has been a little surreal. The scale of Game of Thrones' success has, reaching all over the world and invading the culture to such an extent, it's not something anyone could ever anticipate, not something I expect to ever experience again. It's been quite a ride. Finally, George said, again, what he's been saying for years, repeatedly. He has the major destination points plotted out. He just doesn't have the exact details and journey there because he's a gardener. So I've said this many times, even though George knows that, let's say, Jon kills Dany, he doesn't know exactly how he's going to get there as of yet. So he explained that process as well, saying, I know the broad strokes. I know where I want to end up at the end. I know the major road marks along the way, like on a trip. But what you don't know is all the details. You don't know where the road is going to be closed, and you have to take a detour. You discover that along the way, and that's what makes it an adventure. And I think the books definitely are going to set up a lot better. Dany going crazy, Jon having to kill her, and Bran being king, which I still think is because Bloodraven is controlling his body, but I know that's just a crazy theory. I don't know how many people think that way. Probably mean like a dozen people in the world. So if people want closure or better explanation of why things turn out the way they did, George's books are going to help people with that. Lastly on the show, we didn't actually get to see the Night King in an epic fight because they decided we would rather see the Night King and Bran interact. Yeah, that's right. We were going to see the Night King's fancy staff moves, but they said, nah, we're going to have him walk slowly towards a cripple boy.